In a
Greetings. This is my first time doing this, so I want to welcome you if it is your first time as well. So we'll take a moment to see how things are going here. I'm not sure why it's telling me the chat maybe through OBS. It's supposed to be streaming through OBS. Okay, so I'm not sure about that. So let's see. Saying we have an excellent connection. Not really sure much more how that is supposed to, if we even are live, I would say. It's saying things are, there is an excellent connection. I guess all I can do at this point is to go ahead and get things going through OBS. I will see if I can, I'm not sure why the chat is not wanting to be enabled, because that's a great place for everyone to, that was where everyone's supposed to communicate. I apologize, well, technology, but it is figuring out why that is like it is. I know it's recording one way or another, so we'll just go ahead and get some things started. I apologize for the I'm not sure how everything is working, whether it's working or not. So we'll go ahead and I'd like to get started with the first video that I thought would be great for you to be able to see. Let me get this minimized a little bit more here so you can, I'm not sure if you can totally still see it with this off, but we'll get this going.
In a perfect world, the relationship between private opinion and public opinion would be basically like a mirror. At its best, public opinion holds a mirror to us and it reflects exactly who we are. What collective illusions do to that relationship is turn it into a funhouse of mirrors. You're still seeing yourself, but it is distorted in ways that make it almost unrecognizable. A collective illusion is a situation where most people in a group go along with an idea that they don't agree with simply because they incorrectly believe that most people in the group agree with it. The majority of people in a group believe the majority think something that they don't. They lead individuals to make decisions that are contrary to their private values, and as a result, the entire group can end up doing something that almost nobody wants, which is fatal to free society. My think tank Populist studies collective illusions and uses what we call private opinion methods, which are just methods that help reveal people's private views, free of social pressure and other distorting influences on public opinion. In every question we ever ask, we always ask what the individual thinks and what they believe most people would say to that question. And that combination of methods helps surface collective illusions all across society. We have found them almost everywhere we look, from the kind of lives we want to live, to the country we want to live in, to the way we want to treat each other, and even what we expect out of our institutions, from education to the workplace. The most damaging consequence is that an illusion in one generation tends to become the private opinion of the next generation. One of the most important collective illusions we've ever discovered has to do with the way that people define a successful life. It turns out that the vast majority of the American public believes that most people in the country care about wealth, status, power, when in fact, the opposite is true. The vast majority of the American public are focused on a more personal fulfillment orientation. But our kids are paying an incredible price because they do not understand that this is an illusion. They try to chase fame because they believe that's what other people will recognize as success. So if we do nothing about collective illusions now, our silence will virtually guarantee that our children and our grandchildren will have this view as their private opinion. We've known about collective illusions for over 100 years. And up until the last, say, 20 years, you could have probably counted on 2 hands and 2 feet the number of serious societal and collective illusions that had existed. Since then, that number has exploded. They affect society as a whole, but we are all part of creating and sustaining the illusions. Even when we fundamentally end up disagreeing, a truthful disagreement is always better than a collective illusion. Being aware that collective illusions exist is the starting point. The only way to discover those is the same way that you actually dismantle them. You gotta have conversations. You gotta talk to each other. If you understand that fact, and you create the enabling conditions that allow everyday people to reveal who they really are to each other, these illusions can crumble in a hurry, and social change can happen at a scale and pace that would otherwise seem unimaginable.
This series is brought to you by Stand Together, a community of changemakers tackling our biggest challenges. And to learn more about how you can partner with Stand Together, visit standtogether.org.
All right. Let me get back here, hopefully. Oh my goodness. Okay. So,
You might think that collective illusions are something that are foisted on us.
that's funny, right? All right. So, we'll get some more things going here. Pardon the technology as I'm working through learning OBS. As opposed to Zoom, which most of the calls have been on. So we're going to go ahead and go forward. I wanted to start with that one because that was my husband. He has a lot of, he points me in a lot of great directions, and for whatever reason, because he also follows spirit within. And so he had led me to that link earlier today, and so I thought it was a great piece to be able to put forward, to be able to share. Let me go make sure that tab is closed out so it's not, and it shouldn't be. Why is it still going there? Let's see, why is that still in play? Oh, I'm not sure what is going on there from what I'm seeing through the live stream on YouTube. So this is going to be interesting figuring all of this out. So let's just go ahead. I thought it was important to bring forward that that there is that illusion of the collective movement, in a sense, where most think that a lot of what is going on, that many are in agreement when they actually aren't. So I thought that was important and something to remember. So let's go ahead and we'll get things started. I had it set here to be able to put your name and county in the chat, but of course I'm not, for some reason OBS and the chat are not functioning. So I'm getting this recording. I do ask for a pardon on the technology, And that as I get more practice with this, the recording will be up on the Assembly website as well as YouTube once this is over. Hopefully everything captured correctly, but learning as we go. So we'll go ahead and get things going here. And so we'll go ahead and go on with the Bivens decision. This is a public meeting. Anyone in this meeting claiming any form of U.S. citizenship or employment with any federal agency is now for the next segment of this gathering. New member orientation class is invited to either declare your presence and business here, or we ask you to leave the class at this time. I will repeat, if you are a U.S. citizen or an undeclared federal agent, please raise your hands or vacate our gathering. And for the third and final time, this is a notice that if you do not respond appropriately to the Bivens declaration immediately, you are made fully liable for your lack of disclosure, and any so-called evidence that you collect is tainted and inadmissible. No one can attend any of our meetings in secret or in private without answering to a roll call, without announcing or declaring their presence. So right now, this is a new member that's been opened up, and of course, the chat, I'm not sure what's going on with things. So at least we'll have the recording. This presentation process is a series of 6, so that will also give us more practice as we go along. Hopefully I'll be able to figure out how to get that going, but you should be able to still leave comments in for YouTube, for the link for the under the video for YouTube. So again, please bear with me as I'm getting back. It's been since 2015 since 2019 since I've done really anything social media. So I'm trying to figure out the tools again and what's what. So bear with me, but the recordings will be available. And again, you should be able to post comments then for after each video, but I will be working to see about how to get chats going so that we can be able to comment and communicate through there. All right, so we want to go through here. There's going to be some pop quiz question knowledge review at the end of each segment that's going to support us through this. All right, so some key concepts. Always remember, you are self-governing. We are a community, a family of people working to restore our lawful government. We're not employees. We are all volunteers at this time. Okay, so while you also think that you don't want to pay any money to the government, or what you think, the services still need to be provided. So, supporting your assembly is going to be a better place to be able to bring your resources, as opposed to running it out to the county recorder or to a corporation, to be other entity to be able to do other services, things like that. All right, anyway, so we're not employees, so we are volunteers. So it's not that we don't want to provide the services. It just would be helpful that if you want things to be able to move forward, you are self-governing. So if you want paperwork sent back to you, it is only fitting that you should provide the postage on the envelope to be able to do that. Okay, many are in a working through trying to reduce their postage process, and haven't mastered that technique yet, and so sometimes it costs the assembly for to be able to receive that mailing. So any kind of support you can to be able to remember to help support the assembly, because that way things can keep going. So we always recommend that you follow up on everything and research information yourself to better understand it. We will always do our best to help you find the answers to questions, and recommend you ask them at the end of every class so we can either answer it then or help you research it. Again, I'm not sure what the deal is, and I hope you're able to see all of this. If it's only that I just have it up when this box is up. So, I'm really not sure how I'm supposed to be able to help support get the chat going, because I thought I enabled that with the streaming, but again, learning process. Okay. And anyone that has experience with this that would be willing to help support the assembly to be able to come forward and help with doing these things and doing the recording aspects of it to help support this, I would love to hear from you. Please, please, please. I would very much welcome your support. Okay, so a main goal of the Indiana Assembly is helping people correct their status, education, outreach, standing up committees, and reconstructing our true government of, by, and for the people. This is a question on the final knowledge review. So there's going to be, in this call, we're going to have an overview of the paperwork, then a basic foundational questions and answer discussion. Unfortunately, the discussion is I don't think it's happening. And then we'll go through some history and context, and then and I had not put the list together of mentors, but I will include that in the I'll add that to an additional upload when I upload the final PDF for this for the recording to the website. Or you can email me as well at, you can email records@theindianaassembly.org asking for the mentor list. All right, so every member of the assembly needs to have their paperwork published. So there are two routes that you can be able to go. There's the 928 bundle. This rebuts all the fraudulent assumptions. The bundle plus the 2 witness testimonies and birth certificate. That's both of those. The two witness testimonies and birth certificate are minimum requirement regardless. To become an American State Citizen at this time if you wish to participate in the reconstruction of our true government of, by, and for the people. Now, I think the one-pager has been able to do some of that, but we've got to look at that too. The one-page Declaration of Naturalization of 1779 is the second option. It includes the two witness testimonies and birth certificate. And so this is the fastest option to get back on the land and soil jurisdiction, but it does limit you to an American state national. So you do need to have the 928s for state citizen status. The 928 bundle can be completed at a later date if you decide to take on an ASC status, as long as you fulfill the requirements of no licenses, dual loyalties, or dual citizenship status. Okay, the 928 bundle, and you'll find that as article number 928 at annavonrights.com. And it includes the deed of reconveyance or conveyance. If the difference between the two is that if you were born on one of the 50 states, not a territory, but one of the 50 states, even if you don't live on that same state now, you will do the deed of reconveyance. Now, if you were born on one of the territories or another country altogether, then you will do the deed of conveyance. Okay. Then there is the certificate of assumed names that is trademarking all of your names, and if you need to use them in business for whatever reason, you've captured the use of those. Cancellation of all prior powers of attorney. There is an exception because of given the current situation. So should you, for example, have a family member that needs you to answer as a POA for medical questions, things like that, to support them, medical or financial, whatever, you would include whatever the name of the power of attorney is, the name of that is. And then that way that stays intact, but then cancels all the other.
Then there's the cancellation of all prior powers of attorney. That is for the upper lowercase name. You will, and full middle name. If you're married or you've changed your name, you will have one for each of those names on that of upper lowercase. The act of expatriation, there will be 3 of those for each name. Okay, so let's look at the diagram of, it is not here. Okay, so that will take a few minutes. I'm not going to bring that forward. Okay, so there's the 3 all cap names. There is the first, full, middle, and last, which is the trademark estate name that captures everything, including anything you may think is property. Even anything that you think are your children, but yet they consider products of the merger of your marriage corporation. Then there is the first, middle initial, and last name. That is the transmitting utility. That is the one they're going to want to keep. They usually want to try and take a regular, consistent, steady payment out of that for whatever reason. Sometimes you'll see that like with some utility bills will have it. Of course, now it gets to where it's pretty much how you enter it in if you're setting it up. But anyway, so the first, middle initial, and last name is the transmitting utility, and then the first and only first and only middle and only last name. No middle name or initial. That is the ward of the state. That's the one that the municipal uses as the permission to, that's the name they want to summons. That's the one they want to put on that arrest warrant. Okay, that's the one that controls your physical vessel. Okay, so the act of expatriation, you'll have a set of 3. Now, unless you do not have a middle name at all, which I have come across that, or you were only given a middle initial, you were only given a letter for the middle name. There was no middle name given, it was a letter, and I have experienced that as well. Not myself, obviously, but I have experienced that of nationals recording their paperwork, so it is possible. So in those cases, obviously, they're only going to go as far as, for example, if there's no middle name, they're only going to do the first and last name for the ward of the state. If there is only the middle initial, then there's going to be the transmitting utility, the first, middle initial, last name, and then the ward of the state, first and last name. Okay. Now, but for those, especially like women, you'll have a set of 3 for each name you've ever used. Okay, so you'll have a set of 3 that's your birth certificate name, a set of 3 for if you did get married name, set of 3 if you decided to remarry, right? So things like that. Or if you just randomly, for whatever reason, had your name changed, you will have, or if there was something at birth that you had your birth certificate name changed for family, whatever reason, things like that. So you would have a set for your original name and then the new name given. Then there is the mandatory notice. That's the Foreign Sovereign Immunities Act, also known as the FSIA. And that is identifying you as a foreign sovereign and that you are immune. And it lists the various acts, federal codes, where it reinforces that it is owed to you. The DNA paramount claim. Okay, so now the deed of reconveyance and conveyance, that is bringing you, the living man or woman, back onto the land. Okay, so that's bringing you back on the land of where you were born. Okay, and you're also stating there, okay, so you were born there, but you may not live there anymore. So where your new home state is, most likely should be Indiana, I hope, is for the majority of the call. But if you're not on Indiana, the other 49 states have their assemblies in session and can support you as well. Then when you get to the DNA paramount claim, that's when it brings forward your parents or parent. We do have a modified version for those for a single parent. But there, where it takes it all the way back to before you even in your mother's womb, back to where your parents were married, and because the Bible does state that the Creator knew you before you were in your mother's womb. So that brings all of that back forward at that point. So that's why it locks everything up for you and brings it back into standing. And then, of course, obviously the 2 witness affirmations. And it's 2, not 2 copies from one witness. It is 2 separate witnesses, preferably over the lawful age of 21, that have known you for at least 7 years. They don't have to be personal, one-on-one, that you have a direct, personal, intimate relationship with. That is helpful, obviously. But if you don't, there's always those that if, you may know someone, you've maybe gone to the same grocery store in the neighborhood for the last 7 years, and that one of the grocery store clerks knows that, yeah, you've come in there every time, you've been there for a while, or you've had the same had the same bank account, used the same or credit union, and then that teller can be able to be a witness stating that they can verify, because obviously they've made sure to verify where you live, and for that. So those kinds of things. So there are options if you don't have anyone close to be able to support you with that. And bear in mind that your witness has to provide some form of a contact information, whether it's a phone number, email address, or a physical address. Make sure they know that it is a it's a published document. It doesn't mean that it's out there telling everyone, hey, look here, but it is out there so that if someone is looking, that they would be able to see it. So put one of the 3, but put something, and bear in mind that would be something that's out there to the public. So whatever you feel works the best for you, but one of the 3. All right. So then, of course, there are the birth certificate. That now you no longer need to get those authenticated through the birth state and through the U.S. Secretary of State, unless you want to, as well as it is helpful if you are one that wants to travel off American land and soil. Okay. So if you're one that likes to travel to other countries, then definitely you'll want to get your birth certificate authenticated. But you do not need to get it for this process, in that because in order to authenticate, you have to order a new birth certificate, which therefore also creates a new bond number. So think about that. So if it is something that you're wanting to, if you're wanting to move forward, if you're wanting to move forward with that U.S. or United States passport, that may be something you want to do, authenticate, but it's not something you necessarily need to do for the assembly. Now, if you do go forward and do that, you're more than welcome to also add the authenticated copies as well, to be able to include to your assembly record. It is not published, it's not viewable publicly, but it is if you are in your member record or those for the assembly to be able to verify your record. Okay. Let's see, if you wish to participate in our assembly as we reconstruct our true government as an ASC, you will need to complete all of the other needed documents: declaration of political status with cover letter to U.S. Secretary of State and postage receipt or returned green card, revocation of election to pay taxes if applicable, or if you're one that has not paid taxes for several years, then put together a written statement as to the last time that you filed a tax return, or if you had not filed at all, something like that. But remember, it's a written statement, and that is viewable to the public. If separation from all branches of military, if applicable. There's the fee schedule, baby deed, things like that. The baby deed isn't a requirement to participate with the assembly, but it is supportive. Okay. All right. So the Declaration of Naturalization of 1779 process includes the Declaration of 1779, the 2 witness test affirmations, and the 2 copies of the birth certificate. And again, you'll have to deal with the additional documents, the link here for the templates for those. Bear in mind, the Declaration of Political Status is a process. It is not just your first step is going to get it you'll get it witnessed and recorded, so that and you need to it needs to have an embossed seal on it. So if the notary that you go to ask them if they have an embossed seal. If they do not have an embossed seal, and some may not, and then they also may say, well, we don't use those anymore. That's not exactly true. It is true in that they don't use them anymore, but Indiana for the longest time was still where they used both the embossed. The state of Indiana was that they used both the ink stamp and the embosser. But if you go to a public notary and they do not have an embosser, then send it to me to put the assembly embossed seal on it. Then you'll add the cover letter to it, put the date, put the mailing details on the cover letter itself, so that way Blinken sees that you did send it via tracking. It wasn't just a postage stamp, so he'll know he's been ordered to conduct business. Same thing with the election to pay taxes. And then it's also, you'll send me then a copy then of the Declaration of Political Status and a copy of the cover letter with the proof of mailing. Proof of mailing is a copy of the paid postage receipt, or it is like a screenshot from USPS. It includes the tracking number that shows on the cover letter. So to show that it's at least in transit, preferably one that says delivered, something like that. Or if you did go ahead and send a green card and it was returned, things like that are proofs of mailing it. It is not a picture of the envelope in your hand before it ever gets or that the postal worker was nice enough to let you take a picture of them holding the item. Okay. So, some things to think about. You will want the fee schedule, because which there is an updated fee schedule. If it is not on the TASA website yet, I will add a link to the updated version of it, because it includes all the combined codes where they have violated from federal and municipal codes. That includes that, so it identifies it directly within the fee schedule for you. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move forward, because it still says chat's unavailable, and it doesn't give me I don't know how I'll be able to tell it to say, hey, open up the chat. Maybe I can give you the link that has some of these that will have, it's a PDF, that has a zip file of the PDFs of some that will help you with these. So let's see if maybe that will, I don't know if it even accepted that even on my end. Okay, so we'll get back to what we've got going here. Let me make sure that shows back up. Okay, so obviously we're not going to be able to do that at this point. If you can, though, once you do get an opportunity to be able to post, to put a comment, and once I can be able to see how this follows up through this process, each time the questions coming through here, this is what, do a separate one for each, for a comment within. So do a comment that is a responding to what your knowledge is now, the difference between the 928 paperwork and the 1779. Okay. All right. So here's a little quick cheat, right? Make that real quick. Pass by. Okay. So publishing, well, we'll just do a review real quick. Okay, so the 1779, that's the quickest way to get back on the land and soil, but that is as an American State National. To be an ASC, American State Citizen, you want the 928 bundle. And then to participate with the assembly, you have the cancellation letters to do. Participating as a member of the assembly, let me put it that way. So if you're wanting to to step up in an elected official role, there would need to be a member agreement and background check depending on what the role is, and so forth, but all the cancellation letters would have to be done as well. Okay, so you have one of three ways to publish your paperwork. Through the Land Recording Office, it is private international jurisdiction. Fees are paid for publishing or dispersed to the state assemblies. We are requiring all ASNs and ASEs to create a profile on the LRO for member management. So if you had not created your own, I had created it through your contact in, and that at least keeps you in with the email communications. And preferably, by this point, you at least have presented the 1779 to witness testimonies and birth certificates. All right, so let's see. Then there is the option for and you don't have to do all three of these. All three of these options are not required, but you have to publish in one of three ways, okay, to show verification that you have published your paperwork. The second option is through a county recorder. You'll use the Register of Deeds as miscellaneous. Recording the 928s here is supportive if in a state-of-state court case, right? So you'll also want to, not only if you're currently in a court case, but then you'll also want to present it to the court, record it with the court clerk for your particular case, right? If you're not able to do both, at least present it to the to put it on the record for the court case itself with the court clerk. Then there's the third option of another for another public record. That's through a library posting. You're able to they have a section that that they are able to put these postings in. They do it for like 90 days or something, and they're able to present documentation that was posted there for a certain amount of time. Or you can do a newspaper listing for a certain period of time, website posting, that sort of thing. Preferably, you want a minimum of 90 days for it to be out there, and then obviously the longer that it's out there, the better it is. You know, obviously it needs to be available at all times. And then it improves the curing for you. So when fully published on the LRO, a state national can order a credential card. So once at least the 1779 declaration, 2 witness testimonies, and birth certificate, then you're eligible for a credential card. This serves as proof that you've been fully published on a public record and will be used as a replacement for their driver's license when asked for picture ID. Because ID is for property, right? And we are living beings, so we're with credentials that are in color. Mixed results right now until they get used to seeing it. More officials are recognizing it. But again, I cannot answer for any one of them, so don't send me an email of they stopped me and they said this. Why would they do this? Why can't they just realize? I can't answer for them. We don't even know what the knowledge of that officer was, anything like that. Okay, it still boils down to what you're able to articulate and of your knowledge, right? And remember, you're having to figure out how to bring this forward yourself, because there is no one there to save you. You're not looking for an external source, other. There is no other. You are the help. Okay? All right. So, additional documents after status correction published. This is not necessarily for the some is, but it is for further tightening up and securing your armor for you. Of course, is the declaration of political status, marriage paperwork. So if your marriage officiant is still available, there is the marriage document of lawful record on the TASA website with the initial templates at the correct your status tab. And your officiant can be able to support completing that for you on that aspect. If they are not available, like for example in mine and my husband's situation, we've been married 27 years now. The pastor that married us, he passed over a good 10, 15, now it's going on to probably 15 years now at least. Since he crossed over, so we weren't able to get him to be able to complete that. However, his wife did a holy matrimony certificate for us at the time that I kept all these years, that I was able to record on our behalf for one part of it. And then there is what is called a revocation of third-party contract, so that you send that to the Secretary of State for the state that you got the license for. And so if you're needing that, email records at theindianaassembly.org and I will get you that template out to be able to support you with that. And that is one that you both have to do. So if your wife or husband is not a national, is not stepping up or not correcting their status to be a national, you'll have to hold off on that document, because they have to be able to autograph on that as well. They have to be able to autograph on that, because you're both having to do it to cancel it, because you both went in it, you both got to cancel it. Okay, so then there is the Common Carry Declaration. And for the most part, this has been something that if you did get, if you've found an outsource to be able to do your 928 bundle, which I do support preparing those documents, and then we schedule to record, unless you're wanting to go to a local notary to do that. I can prepare the documents for that as well. And I include the Common Carry Declaration. Okay, so the Common Carry Declaration is that you're making the declaration that you intend to use your discretion as to whether or not you're going to bear arms. But it's also, think about that your bearing arms is not just something that has a barrel to it with a firing mechanism and some type of an explosive to it. Your right to bear arms. Your paperwork is an extension of your arms, right? So, and you have the right to carry that. You have the right to carry yourself correctly, right? So there are a total of 3 declarations. So there's the Declaration of Naturalization Act of 1779, the 1779 Declaration, 1-pager. Okay, so there's that declaration. Then, and that's, you're giving that declaration that you're not part of the U.S. or any part of that in any way, shape, or form. Then there's the Declaration of Political Status. That's where you're informing the Secretary of State that you're declaring your political status. Now, and so it is recommended that you send the Declaration of Political Status also to the birth state Secretary of State. Now, some are sending back, some are starting to stand up and brittle up and say, no, we're not accepting that. That doesn't matter. You've already served notice. That was the purpose of it. You don't, right? So it is, you have served notice, and but you want to think about it. Take time you may want to rebut, because for the most part, there's not going to be a name attached to that of saying that they're refusing to take it. There's not going to be a wedding signature. So you might want to work on figuring out how you can rebut that to advise them that they're incorrect in their knowledge, right? So that's things about ways that you can be able to help inform them and educate them. And I really hope this is recording the sound. After everything, I really hope it is recording everything. Oh my goodness. Okay. All right. So then there are the baby deed. There's the baby deed. This is for all children or grandchildren under the lawful age of 21. Only one parent or grandparent needs to do it, as long as they are an American state national. At least they've done the 1779 2 witness testimony and birth certificate presentment. Then the baby deed. Now, the baby deed is a process as the Declaration of Political Status. Okay, so because it's a deed, so it is one that will need to get notarized. I don't know necessarily. It's not a declaration, but it may be one you might want to have an embossed seal to it. And then there is a cover letter, and it too is on the correct your status on the right side with the process your documents, the cover letter that goes with it, and then you'll send that. Now make sure again you're putting the tracking information on the letter itself so that the recipient, when they open it, sees how that you actually sent it, and it means that you're serving them notice that they got to conduct business with that, right? It's not just hey, I'm just sent, you can decide whether or not you want to do anything with this. It's not just the first class stamp one of the troops speaking out, right? That you're actually acting as the employer and informing them as the employee. Okay, so then there is the fee schedule. Oh, let me back up to the baby deed. So for all those under the lawful age of 21. Now at 21, there's going to probably be a gray area between 16 and 21. You're going to have the issue with there's the part of growing up of getting the learner's permit and dealing with that. That's something that's going to have to really you're going to have to really take some time to figure out working through that. Now, do I think you should omit the tests, the written and the driving test aspects of it? No, I think those are valuable as they are. It is a safety issue. It is something that, they're getting behind the wheel of a heavy piece of equipment that can take lives. So they need to be cognizant of the responsibility that comes with that. Now, but it is the permit is not such an issue, but it's once they move forward to the license. So the permits are going to be good for a while, so that may at least be something to compensate, to give them some form of air quote, of an ID to be able to support if they did want to go ahead and get a job, you know. They may have to tolerate having taxes taken out of their pay, but then it's, you know, are they really going to go do you really want them going through filing that tax return, even though there's that potential of that refund? But as soon as they do that, you know, they'll have to do some, you know, they'll have to do the cancellation letters if they're wanting to get out of all that, right, at that point. So it's some things to think about and talk about with your children that are through that age period. But then once they're 21, they make that decision. If it is something where they got involved and got tangled up for whatever reason, life is what it is. Sometimes you have to do what you have to do to be able, as a stepping stone to help you get to the next step, right? So then at that point, they would just do all the same paperwork that you did. If they did not, and they choose that they want to stay as an American State National, their baby deed supports them moving forward as long as they choose not to get into the beast system, right? So there's that aspect. Okay, so fee schedule. Like I said, it has the combined list of all the violations of the codes from federal and municipal. But it's the overall. It's the U.S. It's the municipal constitution, so it's not going to be state level. That's, you know, at that point, but it's going to be the U.S. municipal constitution, the third one that came into play, right? Then there's the military retirement process. It too has a cover letter. There's the DD 2168 that will include you including a copy of your DD 214, because there's details from there you'll need and so forth. With it also, you will put your mailing tracking info on the cover letter itself, so once the branch opens it up, they'll know that it was that is a business service that they have to perform at that point. And then you'll get proof of postage, green card, if it does come back. Now my husband's came back. He got his green card. They sent it back and they sent a letter. Of course, it said that they didn't. They're just trying to say that they don't recognize it because they don't want to let you out. They don't want to know about it. It's stuff you have to continue to, until they actually try to do something more. At this point, you've done as much as you needed to do was serve them notice. Okay, so before publishing your status correction, move forward with canceling the voter registration so-called privileges. These aren't your elections anyway, right? And we've already seen that they weren't changing the voter process. So it has nothing to do with you. This is not, you're not supposed to be in those. As well as it's the voter registration that they summons you to jury duty with, right? Okay. After publishing your status correction docs, that's when then you're going to do your declaration of political status process. You'll go forward with sending the revocation of election to pay taxes notices, and so forth. And then, of course, to make sure you're getting the copies to send to records at theindianassembly.org. And please scan them into a PDF. Do not scan them into any picture. Pictures do not transfer well. And then it is not a good copy, and you need something that will show up well on the publishing for the record of it. Nor is that fair to send something in a picture and then be upset if it doesn't transfer well. That's not fair to me either. Or future recording secretaries willing to step up and support, right? So these are your documents. You're responsible for making sure there's a clear copy. So get a PDF, scan it into a PDF, no pictures, right? If you're not going to send me an original, if you're only sending me where it's an original copy so that I can work with that, if you're not sending that and you're sending it via email, it's got to be in a PDF. And if you have where it really has 2 or 3 pages with it, make sure that's combined into one document. Not that everything is combined into one document. Make sure everything is separated out and organized as to what goes with what, and not 5 pages of separate PDF documents and I'm supposed to know which 5 go together in which order. Okay, so bear in mind, again, it's your paperwork. Okay, so here's the second one that you're going to post in the comments on YouTube once the video has finished doing its thing and posting, is what publishing options are available to everyone. And after you've published your paperwork, is there any other documents you need to complete? Right? So let's go ahead and look at that. So you've got the 3 options of publishing: land recording office, there's the county recorder's office, and remember that county recorder is not connected to the assembly. They are the C jurisdiction. Okay, so if they decide to say no, or they did a bad job and you want money back or whatever, don't come emailing me to answer for them. They're not connected, and because you've recorded there doesn't mean that you've presented them to the assembly, right? You don't have to publish on the land recording office, the LRO, but it has to be published somewhere and then presented to the assembly if you're going to participate as an assembly member. And then after you've published your paper, then you have the other public record options, right? Going to posting with a library, in a newspaper, or some means of an online space that you can show how long it's been posted there, that kind of thing. After you've published your paperwork, is there any other documents you need to complete? Yes, there's the declaration of political status, going through the IRS letters, if applicable. If not, then there's that written statement, right? We're all walking honorably, right? Okay, so now let's get into some quick history. All right, so basic foundational questions. Everyone has these basic questions. They either ask themselves or they get asked by someone. How are we called into session? By what authority and what documentation? Who's our governing authority? That also gives us proper status and standing. And so we're going to review these questions and point to you the resources so that you can find those answers. So in 1861, 7 southern nations, I'm going to lower this so you can see the date here better. In 1861, 7 southern nation states of America walked out of the second session of the 36th Congress on March 27th of 1861. And at that adjournment of Congress, it was set as sine die. It's a Latin term that means without a fixed day. So they didn't set a date. They didn't give a reconvening date. And then on April 15th of 1861, President Lincoln reconvened Congress under an executive branch by proclamation. That's where General Order 100, better known as the Lieber Code. And here is the link that has the Lieber Code. And that is an interesting read. It is a very interesting read. So this is required. This required the Army or the Department of Defense today to pay reparations to all non-combatant civilians harmed. So if you're saying you're harmed and you're a non-combatant civilian, then the Army or Department of Defense are the ones that have to pay for the reparations, right? And who is it that's actually at war with the American people? Those that are the non-combatant civilians, right? The ones actually at war with the non-combatant civilians of America is the DOD. And they're using the Army. Okay, so the Federation of States was created in September 1776 as a means for the states to act together as one body in international and global jurisdictions. The Federation has no national level powers at all and is not in itself a sovereign body. The Federation is an agency of the states, representing the sovereign bodies of the states of the Union in the foreign, international, and global jurisdictions. In business structure terms, the Federation is an unincorporated holding company that holds the international and global powers that each of the states grants or bestows to it for their mutual defense and protection. Okay? So, as an unincorporated holding company, the Federation could then act as a delegator of all powers given to it. The powers were then delegated to the Confederation. Later, another delegation of powers were made under the constitutions. When any of the subcontractors contracted via constitutions or even the Confederation were unable to function, all delegated powers returned to the Federation via operation of law. So in order to operate in international global business realms at that time, the Federation had to operate under a recognized sovereign, a head of state, to make a request of another head of state. Unfortunately, each individual state couldn't be recognized as sovereign in international jurisdiction and still have the advantage of mutually shared powers. So, to answer the dilemma, the founders used the sovereign status of William Belcher, a patriot from Connecticut who John Adams knew and who later served as a colonel in the Continental Army under Washington. And if you go to the 50 states site, you can start with the TASA site, the American States Assembly.net, and it'll redirect and it'll say tasa.americanstatenationals.us. At the top, there's a link that says 50 states. You can go there. And it has, you'll find in there, I think, the education tab about where the history of William Belcher is there. So you can get more details on that. Okay, so here's for the next comments in the YouTube channel. When did the Great Fraud begin and what caused it? So it began in 1861 when the 36th Congress adjourned sine die, without a day specified for a future meeting indefinitely, without specifying a date for a future event indefinitely, without a date fixed as of an adjournment. All right, so here we go on with little known safeguards. So William Belcher and his family were granted sovereignty equal to kings by William the Conqueror after the Norman conquest in England. The Magna Carta came later. Like his forefathers, he believed that people should learn to be self-governing. The great seals of both the United States territorial and United States of America municipal are part of the Belcher coat of arms array. The evidence and provenance has been carefully handed down through the Belcher family today. The details will be in that article on the 50 state site. So as a result, he and his progeny became yet another safeguard for the new American government, and the hereditary office of head of state passes down to them because every ship that sails under the great seals gifted by Belchers. This means all corporation ships and commerce taking place worldwide by American vessels fall under the head of state. The Belchers are still the protectors of the Federation on the sea and in the air. Belcher is an anglicized version of Belcher. The family is Norman French, not British, and Belcher is a clan name. And James Belcher, the head of state, shares this lineage. And again, that's traced in that document. The Belchers act to protect the interests of the states and people and keep the Federation alive, albeit with a skeleton crew of volunteers when the states are not in session. Thus, they summon the states to assemble and take care of business to deal with the mess. So the members of the Federation are the states of the Union. States of the Union are represented by state assemblies, which are the embodiment of the states when in session. The Federation continues to hold the mutual powers of all the states. Those gathered to run the Federation's administration are all volunteers right now. The functions of the Federation have been dictated to date by past practice and necessity, all of which are practical matters that include locating assets belonging to the states and people and putting an end to the great fraud against Americans. In doing so, we all act under the prudent man fiduciary standard. This means we administer all affairs of the state with the same standard we would exercise if the assets and resources belonged to us in a private capacity. We use carriage accounting method and the calendar year, not double accrual accounting in the federal fiscal year. There are 3 ways our founding fathers determined that the state assemblies may be called into session. 1, they may be summoned by the President of the United States of America, unincorporated. Well, there's no president's been elected for the unincorporated Federation of States since before 1860. So that one's out. Second option was a committee of 9 state assemblies may call the General Assembly. Well, the only state that was even still in session was Texas, which would not have allowed a quorum even to use this option, right? So if there's 9, you need at least 2/3 or a third to call. You need a third to call the quorum, right? And there's not even that, right? So then 3, they may be summoned by the United States of America unincorporated under the hereditary head of state. So this was the method that was used to bring the assemblies into session. All right, so we have our comments. So what is the Federation and how were the states called into session? All right, so we have that the Federation is set up as a holding company of the international and global jurisdictions of the states to allow representation in those arenas. It's responsible for calling the states into session and general guidance to help stand up the states to protect all Americans working to reconstruct our lawful government. And so how were the states called into session? Summoned by the United States of America unincorporated under the hereditary head of state. All right, so here are more resources to be able to find the information. Here's AnnavonRights.com, especially because they're at AnnavonRights.com. They're in numerical order. Excuse me, they're in numerical order. But it also means the oldest is first and the most recent is last. And she's over 4,000 articles now. However, the article number 928 are the templates. Is if you're going to that site, if you're going to option number 2, tasa.americanstatenationals.org, that will give you, then you'll click on correct your status tab, and that will give you the documents, the process documents. If you're looking for the 928s, you're going to still see the chart, your correct your status. If you hover over correct your status, a drop down, say chart your course, select chart your course, you'll see 928 there as well for where it's already in a template format. And on the TASA site, it gives you the option that you can either download the template itself or you can use the document generator. So which is a small fee that you give it the details and it will plug it in. I am not, and the Indiana Assembly is not responsible for that. So if you have any kind of issues with that, you have to do a ASN help desk ticket with the Federation to support you with that. So just bear that in mind. And again, if you are wanting support with doing the documents for preparing the 928s for you, there's that option available as well. You can send an email to records@theindianassembly.org. All right, so then another great link to go, and all of these links have valuable information to go through. If you go to search AnnaVonRights.AmericanStateNationals.org, there you can do a topic search of all of Anna's articles that are on AnnaVonRights.com, as opposed to having to try and go through each one and only going by a article number or title name of it. So it may not give you may not know that's what you're looking for, whereas the search will give you a topic search. And then there's when you go to the states.americanstatenationals.org, the first page that you come to there has the 50 states. So if you're not on Indiana, you can click your state and connect with your coordinator from there. Then you can also at the top, then you can select this link, but the tab is for educational information. And there is a challenge out for new nationals to go to that site each day and start with 10 minutes a day. And if you can working up to committing to an hour a day or however long, but commit to start with 10 minutes a day on that site to do what you can on that page of some more of gaining your knowledge of what's going on. Here's also a brief report in English, which in the which I can show you in the zip file will include this, as well as it's on the 50 state site on the educational tab, a brief report that'll run you through what all has happened. Here it'll also include where it's the timeline of the Great Fraud for you in a chart and so forth. So let's get back to here. And also the link, well, I'll show you for Declaration of Flag. Here is the full Declaration of Flag that includes autograph with it. So, as well as here's a link to the documents as well. Then there are her books that you can either find them on the store site, ASN store site, or Amazon.com there, where it's something is wrong when, an affidavit of probable cause, and 101. What is that called? Here it is. Disclosure 101. What you need to know. I'm not sure if you're able to see that. Oh, let's see if we can do this. Bring this down. Oh, hi. So there's this one, Disclosure 101, right? And then there is, I think there's a few others where there are compilations of some articles as well. And this is the affidavit of, something is wrong when, an affidavit of probable cause. This is a great book. All right. Let's get these put back so it's not in the way. All right. So we'll get back to here. So some things to be able, and that is not an Amazon link that supports the assembly. I'm not sure it may be directly for the Federation or supporting for here. If you're using the Amazon link, it may be whoever it put it in book format first to be able to support them to get the book. Otherwise, if you go to the state's site, it has a link there for the ASN store as well as TASA site, so that you can be able to order it through there, and then that would directly support ANA and the Federation. And all can be found at the third link in the above section in a PDF form, and I will have a compressed file that they're in PDF as well when I upload the PDF of this. All right, so before we'll get this wrapped up, so before the next class, review all of those attached documents so that you can go through the brief report, read the declaration of flag, how the great fraud occurred, that kind of thing, as well as rereading through and going through the links on this PowerPoint presentation. Review on as something is wrong when I just showed you probable cause. There's a link to it there that's in PDF as well as you can find it on the 50 state site. Think about your personal mission statement as an American state national or citizen and create one. Anyone that wishes to share in the next class may do so. Hopefully we'll have the chat session going that you can be able to share in the chat that way on the call itself, but at least be able to put it in the comment if you're open to sharing. All right, so if you haven't already done so, get your paperwork completed with your recording secretary. Right now, I am the recording secretary for Indiana. We did have a second recording secretary with life, and things coming around, things come up, and it just didn't work out for schedule to be able to help support appropriately, and still be able to, she needs to take care of her life. Everybody has life we have to deal with, right? So it was a good thing for her, and so we've got to be able to move forward. So right now I'm the recording secretary for the state, but I am looking for those that are armored up that are interested in wanting to step up for supporting recording secretary roles, so that you too can be a recording secretary. There will be a background check that includes the finance part, that is in the background check. You pull the background check, present it to the assembly, and then you will be presented to the General Assembly for a vote to be elected as a recording secretary, and then the Federation does that vetting for the recording secretaries as well. Okay, so there's a process, so some things to get done, but the sooner we can get you going if you're interested in supporting in that way. But right now you'll get your paperwork in to me. You can send everything through records at theindianaassembly.org to be able to get you moving forward. So some key points to remember, little known safeguard the founders put in place using the Belcher family allowed the assemblies to be brought into session. The Federation is representation in international jurisdiction for all states and is our current governing authority until we can stand up our states. So bear in mind how we've been able to get as far as we have with the Pope, the Lord Mayor, and previously the Queen was because Anna and the Federation did do that, representing from the international jurisdiction for all the states. Okay? So while many of you think they still need to send this letter to this one and this letter to this one, they're handling the battle internationally. You are the ones that are supposed to handle it here locally. So stop looking for someone else to get this fixed for us. All right, so and then the Great Fraud began in 1861 when Congress adjourned sine die after the election of Abraham Lincoln, a bar attorney with dual loyalties to the British Crown. So therefore, he wouldn't have been eligible to to be president for the unincorporated, the United States of America. All right. Let's see. So, and if you had questions, I'm not going to be able to do this, so because I wasn't able to get that to connect in, so I'll close that for now. So, and we'll stop the window capture. Wait. I want the window. We'll get rid of display, and we'll just come to me for the moment. And we'll go ahead and we'll call this an end. We'll see how this worked. I'm figuring it out. So we'll get this moving along. At least there'll be a recording one way or another. So hopefully we'll be able to get this to connect up. The whole point was to be able to see how we can connect together. So, and I don't know if it was because I created it. And again, anyone that has experience with this, please reach out and help give support. Even if you're not wanting to do it yourself, at least if you can give guidance on how I can be able to set it up correctly. But I created the event in YouTube, but then I ended up having to, because of course when I went to go into OBS, it said I had to do an update, and then it wanted me to set up the broadcast first before it would go to the stream. So I don't know if maybe it was something I did in there. So if you have any suggestions, put it in the comments. Please don't be hateful. But if it is something that you do and you want to at least you can at least be able to support, to give comments of how I can be able to connect these things better, so that we can definitely have chat. Because I would be able, it's not, I turned off the display. Let me do that again so you can be able to see. Because I would be able to bring, let me make this smaller, see if this works here. I would be able to bring, here we go. See that box right there? I'm not sure. Hopefully you'll be able to see this. This box here is the chat box. So we would be able to see the chat, and we can be able to connect. I could be able to try to get it in here where it's in the recording, or at least be able to start working with that. So just something to, let me turn that off now. Alright, so we're just with the camera at the moment for me. Okay, so some things hopefully that will get things going. But the recording will be up on YouTube once it does its rendering. Then once it's done, I will have the link posted on the website, theindianaassembly.org. If you go to the top toolbar, hover over calls, and I think it says new member. And you can be able to use that as the for these trainings to be able to support you. All right, so I want to thank you for sticking it out for an hour and a half with the call. And if anything, go back and listen to that video at the beginning again. It should have shown in the display where I found it on YouTube. Let me see if I can go here to that. Oh, I closed it out. Snap. Oh, but it's I guess we're still live. Maybe 3 viewers. Alright, so hopefully something is still going on. Okay, so but it's called, oh snap, because maybe if I open it back up, it'll get me back into there as the last one that I went to. Or not. Let's see. Oh, don't play that.
All right.
Oh, see, the last thing. No, it's not going to show you anything at this point. Anyway, let me just stop from here. So, again, if you have experience with streaming through OBS on YouTube, please nicely put your comments below to be able to help support. If you are one that is wanting to help support doing this technology aspect of it, I would love it. That would be great and welcome. And then that way we can be able to start getting others to engage in the discussion too. I am so sorry this didn't work out exactly as planned. Hopefully, it seems as though there are those still in the call, but I got to figure this out. So, but I want to go ahead and end here. I want to thank you